Welcome to another episode of Five Star Conversations, where we talk with hoteliers making an impact on the industry. And today I have the pleasure of talking with Craig Bond, Chief Operating Officer of Pan Pacific Hotel Group. Welcome, Craig.
Hey, Brendan, welcome and welcome to you, and thanks for the opportunity. It's great to see you. We've known each other for many years, so thank you for the opportunity to join you today.
Thank you. And I know how busy your schedule is. We planned this one
It's
months and
years in
months.
the making.
It's taken a little while, actually. You had to move hotel groups, I think, even to
Yeah,
get.
and I think we tried to do it at a conference in Bangkok. I think we've tried to do it over a few countries, but I'm in Singapore today, so I'm glad we could carve out the time to do it. It's my
I
pleasure.
love it. And all good things come to those who wait, is what my mum.
Very true. Thank you. That's right. Good advice.
Craig, what I'd always like to do is just start off by reading your bio, just to give our listeners and our viewers, because this is a vodcast for want of a better term,
Sure.
an idea of your time in the industry and the caliber of the person we're talking to.
Sure.
Um,
Fire away.
so, Craig is a highly accomplished global hospitality executive who currently serves as the Chief Operating Officer for Pan Pacific Hotels Group, based in Singapore, as he said. In this prestigious role, he oversees the operations, strategic direction, and guest experiences for a massive global portfolio of more than 50 hotels, resorts, and service suites, managing properties across 30 cities in the Asia Pacific, North American, and Europe. Craig is responsible for driving operational excellence across the three distinct world-class brands, being Pan Pacific, Park Royal Collection, and Park Royal. Dear to my heart, I started my career actually at a Park Royal. More than 25 years of hands-on leadership experience. Craig's career is defined by his operational track record in international asset optimization, stakeholder management, and navigation of major corporate transitions. Before stepping into his global role at Pan Pacific, he served as Managing Director for Levy Hotels and Resorts, an owner-centric independent management company spanning Australia and Southeast Asia. His extensive executive footprint also includes high-profile regional roles such as Executive Vice President and COO of Onyx Hospitality Group in Bangkok, Vice President of Operations for Oakwood in Singapore, and Area General Manager for Pan Pacific, Oceanic region. Craig's foundational expertise was built with the mature Australian hospitality market, where he spent a decade in major regional leadership roles, including Regional General Manager for Mirvac Hotels and Resorts and Group Operations Manager for Seville Hotel Group. I think that's where we first met, actually. Throughout these tenures, he specialised in maximising asset value, building robust investor relations, and guiding portfolios through major brand acquisitions by multi-giants like Accor and the Mantra Group. Known for his strategic vision and ability to balance commercial profitability with sincere brand authentic service, Craig stands out as one of the Asia Pacific region's premier hospitality authorities. So welcome again, Craig.
Thanks, Brendan. Thanks for the intro. I think we did meet back in the Seville days, which
Yeah.
great part of my career. And wow, that must be now odd years, 25 years,
Yeah,
maybe.
I'm thinking 2005, 2006.
Yeah, so 20 years ago. It's about right.
Yep. Yep.
Wow, time flies.
It does. It does. We're all wiser and mature these days.
True.
Craig, the first question I always like to ask people is the calling. You've had leadership roles starting in the 90s. You'll correct me, it wasn't Constellation Group. I think you started even before that. But then you've obviously at Seville, Mirvac. Looking back to those early days, was there a specific moment where you realized, hospitality is it? It's what I want to do forever.
Yeah, look, from the first job that I had, which was, I grew up in Newcastle, north of Sydney. So that was where we grew up as kids. And so I joined the hospitality business in Newcastle. And, I come from a family of hospitality. So right from my grandfather to my mother and to my father, they've all either been involved in hospitality in some parts of their life. And my grandfather, until he passed away, was involved in hospitality all his life. So I've always been a part of it. I remember, my grandfather was part of the old Stewart and Lloyd's recreation club in Mayfield, which is opposite like Gininan's, which was a huge steel factory, right? So he would be a senior executive there, but he was also a director of the club. And he was very involved in the hospitality. And never forget, on the weekends, he used to have to go in early in the mornings because they used to have to empty all of the poker machine money, and then they'd have to give it to the cashier and they'd have to prepare it. So I'd love staying at my grandparents' place on the weekend, and I used to be able to then go in with my grandfather, and then we used to be able to, get exposed to the stage, the back of house lay, the back of house area. So as a young kid, I used to love, seeing behind the scenes. So I think that's what gave me, that appetite for hospitality, and because I sort of grew up in many different ways. So that's I think what gave me that appetite to join the industry. And I joined the industry at a young age in Newcastle. And I've said this before, is that my first role was I walked into a hotel. It's called Noah's on the Beach, and it's still there today. And it's opposite Newcastle Beach. 50% of the hotel faces the ocean. The other 50% face the harbour. So there's an advertised position, I think, for F&B. So I went to apply for it. It's privately owned and operated. And the owner, she's very nice. And but she said, look, you've got no experience, but she said, I like you. But so the job she gave me was to actually clean the glass every day of the salt air off all the rooms facing the ocean. And that's the way I got my foot in the door, right? So every day I'd go on the balcony and get the squeegee out and take the salt air off. And as they got to know me, then moved me into weddings and F&B and etc. So that was how I entered the industry and started at the bottom, and which I think is really nice grounding.
Yeah. I think she was obviously testing persistence,
Oh,
giving you that tough job. It's like if you can handle it, then great.
and look, tough owner, fair but tough. And I think working early in your career for owner operator has really also sort of given me that great grounding from the beginning, because there's a lot more ownership and rather than pure managed. So it was a nice entry into it. Tough, but the grounding was fantastic. And of course, back then they had the best like fine dining. So they moved you through banquets, and banquets is like, weddings, fish or beef, and it was a beverage package. And then back then they had a Sea Spray restaurant, which is still there today, but back then it was fine dining. So the cocktail bar, where people would come in the old style, sit down, have their cocktails, move through, fine dining, a la carte service. So back to the old days of, writing out the chits, who's in position 1, 2, 3, 4, all those things. So great experience.
Yeah, really good experience. And your first role, I think I've heard you talk about it on another podcast, or as an article. You took a leap of faith and applied for a job. Was it in Queensland?
It was.
Yeah.
So I was 24 years of age, and I got contacted by a hospitality headhunter about a GM role in North Queensland, Mission Beach, right? So I think it was called, I can't remember. It ended up being The Point, but before that, I forget the name of what it was, but it was only 30 keys. It was opposite Dunk Island. Stunning. But then we went through the interviews. It was owned by some architects in Melbourne, actually. They owned that property. They owned a couple of resorts also in Palm Cove. And then they went into receivership, voluntary administration. So the headhunter called me and said, look, they've gone into voluntary administration. What do you want to do? And I went, my gosh, we've all come down all this journey. And I said, well, you know what? Let's give it a go. I had to pay for my own ticket to get there, right? So I flew myself there. And I had to run the resort out of a petty cash tin, because you're dealing with local suppliers. Everyone knows voluntary. So no one's giving you credit. So back then, shows me I'm getting older now, but we had the old telex, right, machine. There was no Opera. It was the Whitney system. So we had the book with the ruler, with the pencil, right? So I took it on, and that was my first GM role at 24. You'd have a lot of owners coming in, a lot of tie kickers coming in, and then we end up, because you would check people in, you would take their luggage down, very small team, you'd serve for breakfast. And eventually it was sold to some investors that actually kept me on, went through a redevelopment, doubled the size, turned into a luxury hotel, etc. So that was a really nice segue through my career as my first GM. We then introduced Opera, Micros point of sale. So I had a lot of help from the owners who were very experienced in hospitality that actually taught me a lot in my early days. So that was fun time. And back then, Mission Beach and Dunk Island Resort was owned by I think it was owned by Qantas Group back then. So
Yeah.
it was busy. You had Badar Island the other side. So that part of Queensland back then was really humming. So yeah, it was an exciting time in my career. 24-year-old in a backpacker town. It was fun.
That's a great story. And it just goes to show, a common theme, sometimes you just have to take those chances. As you said, you paid for your own ticket
I did.
and you had no idea, what your tenure would be like.
No idea. And we had to generate cash, so we had to rely on locals. So we did a lot of F&B promotions to get the locals back, to generate cash so you could keep the property moving along. It was fun. I don't know, it's so memorable. And I had such a fabulous time and met many people and gave me a lot of experience. And
Yeah. Yeah, really, really, it sounds like really good grounding. I remember Mark Hodge, who you would know.
yes, I know Mark very well. Good guy.
His dad bought them a property in Glen Innes and said, "You run it." And he said that, he learnt by the seat of his pants because there was no other option. So
Yes.
it sounds like you're sort of in that same boat, but great, great experience.
Yes, and back then you could probably do it. Times have changed now, of course, but in that time of life, and I'll be 55 this year, right? So 25 years ago, or more than that, so 30 years ago. So wow, there you go.
There you go. So your career has taken you from obviously managing Australian apartment hotels to the executive suite in Bangkok and Singapore with Onyx and now Pan Pacific.
Mm.
You've obviously had lots of people that inspired you or mentored you over the years. And I know it's hard to sort of name one or two, but is there a particular person or a couple of people that come to mind?
For sure. Look, there's many. I've been so lucky to work with incredible leaders that have entrusted me, empowered me, taken a risk on me. I look at back in the day of Constellation Hotels Group, right? So after Mission Beach, when I was in Cairns, I met the managers of, back then was the Reef Hotel Casino. It was still the
Okay.
Reef Hotel Casino. But the casino was run by Casinos Austria. And the
Right.
hotel was actually operated by a Constellation Hotel Group, which originally was Tourost Hotels, right?
Yes.
And
Right.
Daryl Courtney O'Connor, owner and CEO back then. And so working for Daryl Courtney O'Connor back then, he had Country Comfort, Chifley. I mean, his portfolio in Australia was quite impressive back then. They were a leader in hospitality and way ahead of the game. So working for Daryl Courtney O'Connor was very inspiring. He's all about his people. And, so he was quite an inspiration for me at the beginning of my career. Then I moved, if you think about Seville Hotel Group, Greg Sear. I mean, great leader. I was introduced to Greg and he took me on to moved into Seville, Adelaide. And then went from Adelaide, then I went to Darwin, then I went to Brisbane with him, and then he promoted me to Director of Operations for the group. And still great friends with Greg today. Very well respected industry veteran, if I can call him that. Then I moved through to, we'll talk about the acquisitions later, but then with Mirvac Hotels, right? So Mirvac, I had great times there. And we had a lot of change. So I had Stephen Burt. So Stephen Burt come in at the end, of course, when they looked to actually sell the business. And Stephen was actually in their investment arm of Mirvac. It was very interesting because when I went for the interview with Mirvac, I get into the lift, I'm downstairs. And of course, when people come, true hospitality, you open the door, let people come in, say good morning. And one of those people happened to be Stephen Burt, right? He was interviewing me for the role. And so it was actually just great timing. And the other one, Andrew Turner, who cannot forget Andrew Turner, right? Before Stephen sort of come in at the end, Andrew Turner. Still, whenever I see Andrew, I love seeing Andrew. He built Mirvac, from 0 to 50 odd hotels before it was acquired by Accor. And what a great guy and, down to earth. And I really learned a lot from him. Then I moved to Pan Pacific Hotels Group, right?
Yep.
And so I head up Australia. I ran them for 2012 to 2016. I had 5 properties. I was based in Sydney. And Dean Schreiber, well, actually, it's very interesting. I met Patrick Imbardelli, right? So Patrick Imbardelli, and everyone knows Patrick. I mean, he's
Yep.
one of the best in the business. So he was a great mentor for me. And I met, there's a lady Michelle Loader, who used to be the CEO, right, of AHS.
HS, yep.
Michelle, we were at the very first AHICE conference, right? That was at the Swiss Hotel in Sydney.
Yep, I remember that.
Very first one. There was 90 people there, right? 90. And at the same night, they did the HM Awards, which was down at Piermont.
At the Star or not yet?
No, there was only 100 and something people down at Dalton House, right?
Yes.
So you'd have HM, the AHICE, the first one ever, and then the awards night. So at the conference, I was introduced to Patrick by Michelle. And Patrick's just got this amazing ability that when you have your 5 minutes with him, it's your 5 minutes. He's very engaging. So anyway, that night we went to the awards night and I won Hotel General Manager of the Year at the AHICE Awards. And Patrick can come up and he goes, look, I hear this is very well deserved. Da, 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 da. Fast forward, then they had a position available in Australia. Patrick then said to the HR team, you contact this guy. And then I ended up getting the job. But it was Dean Schreiber. And you probably know Dean. Dean's been around. And so Patrick, great mentor. Dean Schreiber, who was my boss, he was actually in the role I've got now with Pan Pacific. So worked with Dean, loved working with Dean. And then Dean left. He became the head up Oakwood. And I always wanted to then move through to Asia because I really love the dynamics. And Pan Pacific always wanted me to come up, but Mr. Gui was in the helm back then. And he goes, but we don't want you, Australia's doing so well, but we don't want to move you. And then eventually after Dean had been gone for a year, he goes, right, Bondi, you're coming up. You've got to be here. Come and head up operations for me at Oakwood, based in Singapore. And that was great. So I worked with Dean twice. And then I got this I got this call out of the blue from Onyx. And so I moved through to Onyx Hospitality and had great time there, working in Bangkok, and now back at Pan Pacific. And I have the pleasure of having actually Onyx, Douglas Martell, right? Okay. Douglas Martell, IHG many years. He took the punt on me and says, right, I had a wonderful tenure with Douglas, very empowering guy and another great leader I've worked with. And now I'm back at Pan Pacific. I have the pleasure of working with our CEO, which is Cho Peng Sum, one of the nicest guys in the business, very empowering. So I'm very lucky that through all my career, including where I am now with Mr. Cho, is that I've really had, you asked for a couple of names, but I've given you many. They actually all have played a part in the career, and they're all fabulous leaders in their own right. And what's great about our business is that if we see each other, we talk. If we need to connect, we connect. And that's what's so wonderful about this industry is that you always will come across each other sometime. And if you need to reach out, you reach out. And I don't think there's any other industry quite like it. So very lucky.
Yeah. And there's some great people there. As you said, Patrick Mbadeli, Andrew Turner,
yes.
Dean, stalwarts of our industry.
Yes.
Yeah. Andrew, I work for a company, Intertouch, and we were doing guest internet for Movac.
I remember
early 2000 and
yes.
We'd have meetings with Andrew and he was just so approachable. It was and he wanted to be involved and kept up to date on what was happening, and they were the early days. I think the first Movac properties we weren't even installing with Ethernet. It was actually serial cabling back then.
You're putting it through the phones, right? Through the
it was sort of semi dial up. The guest had to load a driver. So, and then Ethernet came about and we thought, wow. And now.
Well, I remember when I was at Seville and I was running Darwin, and back then John Howard was the Prime Minister at the time. Yeah. And they would always come and stay at Seville. And it was coming up quite a lot because a lot of defense deals going on. And so they would take, the top two floors, but you'd need all this internet. But back then, my gosh, the cables you used to have to run because it was all dial up and had, engineering running all these cables. I never forget. And you think now how times have changed to what it was back then.
Yeah. It still happens a little bit. I won't mention any names. I was talking to someone I work with. There was a overseas Prime Minister staying at a hotel recently who had to have his own PABX and fax lines put in to the hotel because
Still today.
This is literally, it's happening right now. They feel that faxes are a little bit more secure. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I think it's a couple of things. If you see when someone says this is our fax number, you go, okay, interesting. And it's like, and we're all guilty of it when we put on our Wi-Fi on our website, free Wi-Fi, and you go, wow, And a fax machine, my gosh, I mean, if you don't take a photo of the fax machine, what's on that bit of paper? If you don't print it on the right paper, it's gone, right? No history.
That's
That's
right.
probably why he likes it.
Yeah, yeah. How times have changed. So I always like to ask, we know the Craig Bond, Chief Operating Officer, driving results across the Asia Pacific and America and Europe. But is there an after work Craig Bond that has a passion for something that not many of your colleagues would know about? Now, I've had people that have been ex-drummers, that do martial arts.
Not that exciting, Brendan. I'm
No?
sorry, not that exciting. Look, for me, my work is very much part of my life, right?
Yeah,
And I always say to people, don't look at this as the benchmark because it's not for everyone. But that's just me. But outside of work, for me, it's relaxation, great food, travel. And people go, really? You travel? Because I travel a lot for work, but
yeah,
I also enjoy traveling in my own time.
yeah,
I love experiencing new destinations. I love staying in hotels, resorts, preferably not my own, because
yeah,
my family always say, we don't want to stay in one of your hotels because you'll always, pick up this, pick up that. But regardless, I love connecting. Even when I stayed at any hotel, I just love connecting with people. So for me, outside of work, my own leisure time is I love travel. I love great resorts. I love being by the sea. It really clears my head. There's nothing better than you have to go to work, for a 10K walk on the beach. So walking's a big part of my life, and we love walking, eating, socializing, visiting family. So unfortunately, no martial arts, no drumming. I love music. I would love to be able to play it, but I cannot. So travel, meeting people, just stepping outside of the business and just relaxing, wearing a pair of shorts, t-shirts, and thongs. And I can say thongs in Australia. If I say that in this part of the world, they
an
call it
undergarment.
flip-flops.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people go, we really don't really want to see you in that. Um, so there's nothing better than just taking off the suit, shorts, t-shirts, pair of thongs, wear your cap, and sometimes just be anonymous, right? Because
Yeah,
in our business, when you engage a lot of people, you go around and people say, "Hey, Mr. Craig, and where did we work together?" And sometimes it's not where you work, but where you used to stay, and they've served you in a restaurant. And I think engaging at every level, doesn't matter how far you move up the ladder, engaging with people, I think is one of the best things that I'm lucky enough to do.
yeah, yeah. And I think at this point in your career, you've obviously seen a lot of people start out, and they're now in positions, and it's a little bit like your own children. Not quite as much satisfaction, but I know you get satisfaction from seeing
Oh, a
people
lot, a
grow.
lot.
Yeah,
And it's like I always say, there's an example is that many, many years ago in my career, and I won't mention the brand, but I went to work for a company that had not a great history of looking after GMs, a bit tough.
yep,
But I thought I must be able to make a difference, right? So I took the job, and the country manager would come in with the owner. The owners are flying from overseas, and there's a lot of work that goes on. I know when I go into a hotel that I know that when I'm going with my team, because I was a GM for nearly all my career, so you're going to paint this, you're going to clean up that, but you
yep,
want everything to be right, front and back of house. So a lot of effort goes into it. But these people used to walk in the door, go up the stairs into the boardroom. They'd want food in the boardroom. They'd do the meeting, they'd do the thing, and they would walk out the door.
oh,
Never engage with any of their team. And I always said to myself, and this is back early in my career, and I said,
yep,
I will never do that, right? Never do that. So I think engaging with the team, it's not just about the front of house, it's going in. I always eat in the canteen, always when we go to visit a hotel, even when we go do our performance reviews or
yep,
whatever it may be, at least once we will eat in the canteen with the team, always. So I've always said that engage at every level when you're walking through, say hello to the room attendants. And when you go back, people are genuinely happy to see you because never want to be like, oh, here comes corporate office and it's all very formal. And yes, there is a time and place for it. But my advice and something that I pride myself on is that you communicate and you engage at every level rather than just at the top because we've
yep.
all started at the bottom. And I always say, never forget where you come from.
That's great advice. On that note, what is possibly the best piece? It doesn't have to be one piece or two pieces of advice that you've received over your career that you now actually pass down to people that you mentor.
Oh, I think what I've just said now is that, right?
Yep.
Respect is number one, right? and engage at every level, every step of the journey, I think is
Mm.
important, right? So whether you're the room attendant, whether you're the porter, it costs nothing to be polite, right?
Yep.
Number two, bring people on the journey, right? Don't work in a silo. You work in a silo, you'll be 10 steps ahead and you'll look behind, there's no one there with you. So,
That's it.
so in our business, take people on the journey, communicate. And the more you communicate and the more you bring people on the journey, the more successful you are. I'll give you one more. I employ people that are better than you,
Yes.
right? Never be scared because we're not good at everything. So if where your greatest weakness are, you bring the people along with you that are better in that. And then at the end of the day, it's a team effort, and I think that's the key recipe for success.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. I love that. If we look ahead a little bit, I suppose we talk about the industry and technology. Pan Pacific's brand represents very distinct philosophies, from the luxury of Pan Pacific to the deep sustainability and design of Park Royal Collection. Is there an emerging trend across the segments that excites you or potentially makes you a little bit nervous?
I think authenticity excites me. And I think for Pan Pacific, we don't have 50 brands, we have three. So
Yep.
we have the ability to be very authentic across our three brands. So that excites me because it's very clear, right?
Yep.
So for us, look, we're very different. You look at a lot of our competitors, 40, 30, a lot of
Yeah.
brands. But for us, so authenticity, having the three brands very clear and defined enables us to be authentic. So that excites me. AI really excites me. And now I know people like a little bit scared about it. I think it will only enhance the guest experience. And for those of us that, or for those that are in denial that he's here, it's part of the business. If it's not part
Yep.
of your business, get on board. But I think it's very exciting. And yesterday we had a full day. So as an organization, we've just enabled Claude onto our whole platform. So we're now
Okay.
encouraging all of our leaders to actually embrace AI. So we
Yep.
had our consultant come over from Dubai, spent a whole day with us on Claude and how we implement it into our business. And so we've got our global leadership conference coming up in Kuala Lumpur in the last week of October. And I spoke to our CTO and said, let's get this guy in for a few hours because I think it'd be great for him to come and speak. So I said, so you've got the date available? He said, yes, that's good. Good, just lock it in and let's talk about the content. He says, Craig, it's a little bit too early to talk about the content because the way AI is moving so fast, right? He
Different
said,
model.
let's connect closer because we'll actually have more up-to-date information to make sure that we're talking about still relevant. And I'm
Yep.
just going, that just blows my mind, right? To go that I thought, great answer, but it just gave me the perspective on how fast AI is moving. And you've been in the IT, technology, right? You know it.
Yep.
Is that sometimes you've got to draw a line in the sand and you go, all right, it's moving so quick, but this is where we're going to land. But at the moment, it's not like the way it used to be. So I'm very excited about AI. I'm not worried about taking away jobs in hospitality. I think it will take away those mundane tasks that we do and enable us to focus on what matters. And that's all about the guest journey and the guest experience. I just think AI will just make us do it better.
Yep. And I think we can draw analogies. I mean, you mentioned Whitney. When we went from Whitney to computers, it didn't mean that we reduced headcount necessarily. It just meant that we were able to offer a better guest experience. We were able to start introducing personalization. And I agree that if we use AI appropriately, then those, boring, mundane aspects of the role will disappear.
Yes. And I think with AI, it's like you can see it's okay for people to use it. And you can start to see if they're using ChatGPT or they're using Claude because it has like some presentations have a certain flavor about them. But
Yes.
it's like anything, you still have to read it, right? Because it's not always right. So if you go and punch in a spreadsheet of numbers and you wanted to give some analysis, you can't just push send, right? You need to make sure you read it. Or if you go and write an email and then you want to, what the audience is going to be this, just rewrite it for me. You've got to check it, right?
Yep.
So you can't make the mistake of just say, right, put it in, push the send button. So it still needs that human element.
100%. And that's one of the things when I've spoken to a few people where they're a little bit anxious because, people like you and I, we've been around long enough to know that when we check the answer that comes out of AI, hang on a second, that doesn't seem logical. The younger generation don't necessarily question as much.
Yes.
Part of the issue, and we could be talking about lawyers, for example, because a lot of the work that a junior lawyer will actually do, the research can be done by AI. But if we don't have people that are juniors now, who have we got to question? We need to have that career trajectory, to
Yes.
start people at the entry level jobs and work their way up. If we cut those jobs completely and you retire and where do we stand? So I
Yeah.
think we need to be careful from that point of view that we don't remove people obviously from junior roles, and people still have an understanding of the fundamentals of the business really is.
Must. Absolutely. I still believe that, I encourage to start at the business, get into the business. And I was at our hotel yesterday, one of our hotels, Pan Pacific Orchard, beautiful,
Yep.
one of the world's most beautiful hotels in the world, stunning. And I was talking to our club lounge manager, and she's amazing. And I said, she's done such an incredible job. And I said, what's next for you? And she goes, oh, it's a good question. She was with our P&C team the other day, and she wants to get exposed to banquets, and then she wants to get into banquet sales. And then she goes, I just want to make sure that my number two is up to speed so I can spend the time. And I just went, wow, I love that about our business, is that cross exposure, that willingness to step outside of the comfort zone. And that'll never get replaced by AI, right? That's always going to be all about people. So I'm not afraid of AI controlling what we do, because at the end of the day, we're a people-centric business, and I think we'll always.
Yep. I mean, people want to travel, and they, to your point, as you said, in your downtime, you love traveling, you love
Of course.
interacting with people, and the technology is not going to replace that at all.
No,
So
no.
I think we're in the right business from that point of view.
I agree. I agree. I think it's just there to enhance, and so it's an exciting time, moving very quick.
If we look ahead then and we say it's 2036, how do you think the industry might change?
Oh my gosh.
Any
Well,
pointers that, like, do we need to start planning for that? Or as you said, because it's moving so quickly, you just sort of, buckle yourself in and have the right mindset and away you go?
let me look at it the other way. Let's go back to when I started my career and when you started your career, and look at where we are today.
Yes,
Not a lot has changed in the fundamentals of hospitality,
true. Very
right?
true.
We're still there to welcome, to serve, great experiences. We
Yeah,
want aircon that works. We want a great breakfast. I want a bed that's comfy. I want a
yeah,
great sleep experience. That hasn't changed in over 100 years, probably.
true.
And I don't think moving to 2036, I'll be retired anyway, but I don't think that will change. I don't think the fundamentals of hospitality will change.
Yeah,
How we serve it, how the back end works, how we communicate, the personalization, all those things will change. But I think that's just part of the evolution of hospitality. But the fundamentals, I don't believe will change, right? It's
yeah,
like right now, if I go back years ago and I've worked for all the different brands, you look at your SOPs, they're all the same. We all do the same thing. It's got a different logo on the top, to be honest. And there is some key fundamentals about each brand. Each brand have their own look and feel and flavor
yeah.
and core values and all those things. But fundamentally, we do the same thing.
Yes, it's a
So
good
I think
point.
I think buckle yourself in, of course, but I think it's about embrace,
Yeah,
right? Continue to embrace. You must embrace. You talked about earlier about Wi-Fi and all those things. We used to charge for Wi-Fi, and then we're like, oh my gosh, we've
yep,
got to give it away, and we're freaking out because how are we going to lose this revenue? Like, we used to charge for newspapers, and then they went online. So the evolution of hospitality has been around, and I think it's just the next part of the journey, right? It's exciting.
yeah. That's true. It is. It's an opportunity for growth.
Yes. And we're never afraid. I mean, we are such a robust industry, right? So if you look at what happens, global financial cry, oh, bird flu that's happened over the years, my
True.
gosh, we just come to work, we pivot, we buckle down, and we get on with it. So I think we're pretty robust industry to be a part of. So I think based on that, whatever gets thrown at us as an industry, we'll still be here the next day.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little bit of a deep question, but is there, based on, I suppose, the change, is there a hope that you have for that for our industry? And maybe it's the hope that we always will continue to be a people industry. Going back to your one of your core pieces of advice, don't forget where you come from.
Yeah.
Is there a hope that you have for our industry around that?
Yeah, there is. The hope that is that we continue to embrace, like, I love AI, right? It's like, it's about recruitment. We need to step outside of the norm and speak to someone that may not be everything you want in paper,
Yep.
but you talk to them, you're like, wow, you've got the great attitude,
Yes.
right? So my hope is that we do not recruit through technology too much, where we still take the time to speak to people, right?
Yes.
Well, some of the recruitment decisions that I've made are for those that have reached out to me. But if I looked at them on paper, right, you would go, you don't fit the bill. So I
Yep.
always say it costs nothing to have a conversation, and let's make sure that we continue to have conversations in our business. And it's like, I would rather a quick phone call than five emails, because I can actually, in one phone call, I can actually achieve everything I need. But recruiting, let's continue to speak to people, not just always look at the piece of paper, because you can get surprised, and you find these great gems and you go, wow, I would never have recruited you off the piece of paper. But we can train skill. I cannot train personality. I can't train ambition, but if they've got the right attitude, I can train the skill.
Yeah, that's so true. I remember once I had I was working for a PMS vendor and I was looking for a salesperson, and somebody who was a room attendant applied. And as you said, based on paper, not really
Yes.
appropriate, didn't have any sales experience. But she actually called me and we had a bit of a chat and I said, come in, hired her. Today, she runs her own company,
There you go.
actually teaching people sales.
What a great story.
Yeah, and similar, there was a chap that I employed out of hotels. He was front office manager. He now lives in the US. He used to run hospitality for Microsoft. As you said, if we look at it from a pure, using technology perspective, those people would have discounted. That's a great hope. I like that. That
Yeah,
we,
that's my big hope, is that
yeah,
we continue to engage with people and step outside the norm and
yep,
find these, because we all had opportunity in our career, and we still. So my commitment is that I need to give back, and I need to continue what I've been lucky enough to give, is that and get is to give opportunity.
yeah, yeah. On that note, if there's somebody who's looking at a career in hospitality or has just started their career, what advice would you give them?
Oh wow, step outside your comfort zone
Yep,
is very important,
mm,
and love what you do.
yep,
Just love what you do, right? If you want to be in hospitality, find a way to get your foot in the door. Once you get your foot in the door, now it may not be the position you want, but if it gets you in the door, then it's up to you to then prove yourself, and then you will be given opportunity, right? It doesn't get handed to you on a plate. You work
yeah,
for it, but first of all, get your foot in the door, do a great job, and opportunities come. Never
yep,
give up.
yep, yep. And I love that. Step outside your comfort zone.
Yes.
And you're a classic example, that leap of faith that you took to start your career. Just imagine if you said, oh no, it sounds difficult, where you would have been today.
No,
Um,
correct. I
yep,
still, to this day, someone used to, I forget who it was, that said, do something that scares you every day.
yep,
But I always say to all the, like, our sales leaders, etc., and to the GMs, how many cocktail parties do we go to in our career? So many, right? And what
yep,
do we do when we walk in the door? We look for someone we know, because it's comfort,
yes.
right? We're all guilty. But I
Yeah,
always
we
say to
are.
them, go to a group of people you don't know and introduce yourself, because that scares the hell out of me still today, right? Because it puts you out of
Yep.
your comfort zone. But I say, go and do it, and you'll be surprised who you can meet and the conversations you can have. And
Yeah.
again, it puts you out of your comfort zone. So it doesn't matter if you're starting your career, put yourself out of your comfort zone. Even right now in my career, I put myself out of my comfort zone a lot.
Yep.
We don't know everything, right? We're
No.
expected to, but you just got to go in head first, engage the people that can help you, and off you go. And if it scares the hell out of you, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing.
Yeah.
Craig, thank you so much for the conversation. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today.
Thanks, Brendan. I've really enjoyed it as well. Great conversation, and thanks for the opportunity. It's great to see you.
Thank you.